Blind to the world, the Sheikh's mother was forced to eat whatever her daughter-in-law gave her. And it was not food. The Sheikh returned early, having forgotten his passport, and what he discovered in the mansion would send a chill down his spine. The silence that had initially deceived him now seemed a sinister accomplice. A faint moan, almost inaudible, tore through the oppressive quiet, and a nauseating stench of something spoiled and abandoned assailed Khalid's sensitive nostrils, guiding him down a corridor he rarely traversed. The door, once always open, now stood ajar, revealing a sliver of darkness. A shiver ran down his spine even before he pushed open the heavy wood. What revealed itself before his eyes made the air catch in his lungs. It was not a room, but a cell of oblivion. The sunlight, once abundant, was now a mere remnant that barely pierced through the heavy, dusty curtains. The atmosphere was gloomy, suffocating, and the smell of mold and decay was overwhelming. On the cold floor, huddled against the wall, was Amina. Her frail body trembled slightly, and her eyes, once filled with an inner light even in blindness, now seemed vacant, lost in profound despair. Beside her, a fine porcelain plate lay overturned, and what appeared to be a greenish, putrid paste oozed onto the Persian rug, now stained and soiled. A roar erupted from Khalid's chest, a primal sound of fury and pain that made the mansion's floor vibrate. He lunged forward, each step heavy as a hammer. "Mother!" His voice was hoarse, unrecognizable, laden with lacerating anguish. He knelt, feeling Amina's cold, wrinkled skin. She flinched at his touch, a muffled cry escaping her throat before she recognized the familiar scent of her son. Warm tears began to stream down her blind face, but they were not tears of sorrow. Rather, they were of a relief so intense it seemed to break something within her. Khalid held her carefully, his eyes scanning the room, identifying the few objects Saphira had not removed. The absence of her canes, of the small rugs that marked her path, of the photos she saw with her hands, was a silent testament to his daughter-in-law's methodical cruelty. The image of his mother, the respected and beloved matriarch, reduced to this, ignited a flame of hatred in his heart. He lifted her with the utmost delicacy, wrapping her in his own silk bisht, and carried her out of that private hell. As he carried her through the corridors, the stench of decay still clinging to his clothes, the sight of Saphira, sitting elegantly in the living room, flipping through a fashion magazine, made his blood boil. "Saphira!" Khalid's voice echoed through the mansion like thunder. His daughter-in-law raised her head, a forced smile on her lips, but the smile froze as she saw her husband's contorted face and the fragile burden in his arms. Her eyes widened in horror and disbelief. "Khalid, what happened?" she stammered, her face pale. "Saphira," Khalid repeated, his voice dangerously low. "What happened is that you turned my mother's life into a nightmare. You let her waste away, Saphira. You tortured her." Saphira's face contorted into a mask of denial. "No, Khalid, I was taking care of her. She's stubborn, difficult, always refused food." "Food?" Khalid interrupted her. The word spat with venom. "You call that food? Spoiled leftovers? Garbage? You isolated her, threatened her, humiliated her." His voice rose in a crescendo of fury. "I saw it, Saphira. I smelled it. I saw the despair in her eyes, in my mother's eyes." Before Saphira could utter another lie, Khalid summoned the guards with an imperious gesture. "Get her out of here, now. Let her take nothing but the clothes on her back. No jewelry, no money. Let her be expelled from this mansion and from our lives forever, and let her never dare approach my mother again." Shock paralyzed Saphira for an instant, but soon a sharp cry of protest tore through the air. "No! Khalid, you can't do this! I am your wife! I have rights!" The guards, robust men loyal to the sheikh, did not hesitate. They seized her firmly, ignoring her screams and her attempts to struggle. Saphira was dragged out of the room, her protests echoing through the corridors, diminishing as she was led to the main door. A deafening thud of the mansion door closing sealed her fate. Khalid felt a chilling relief, but his priority was Amina. He carried her to the mansion's most luxurious room, her own, which Saphira had usurped. With the help of the maids, who watched the scene with a mixture of shock and ill-concealed relief, Amina was bathed, her physical and emotional wounds treated with the utmost care. A doctor was called immediately, and as Amina slept a deep, medicated sleep, free from nightmares for the first time in a long while, Khalid sat beside her bed, his mother's wrinkled hand held firmly in his. Justice had been served, but the shadow of Saphira's cruelty still hung over the mansion, reminding Khalid that his mother's true recovery would be a long and arduous path. He promised himself he would dedicate his life to healing the invisible wounds Saphira had inflicted. Amina awoke to a sensation of gentle warmth and a delicate floral aroma dancing in the air. It was not the smell of mold and decay that had become her constant companion. The mattress beneath her body was soft, and the sheet covering her of cool, pleasant-to-the-touch silk. A bird song sounded cheerfully from outside the window, a sound she hadn't heard in months, muffled as it had been by the oppressive silence of her captivity. She reached out, hesitantly, and her fingers found the smooth fabric of a familiar, richly embroidered quilt. It was her room, her true room. Khalid, who had been dozing in a nearby armchair, lifted his head at the slightest movement. "Mother, are you awake?" His voice was a hoarse whisper, laden with concern and relief. He approached, and Amina felt the warmth of his large, gentle hand enveloping hers. Silent tears streamed down the matriarch's face. They were not of pain, but of a gratitude so profound it almost suffocated her. "Khalid," she murmured, her voice weak, yet with a trace of her former dignity. "I am here, Mother. I am here now, and I will never leave you alone again." In the days that followed, Sheikh Khalid's mansion transformed into a sanctuary of healing. A renowned physician, brought in haste, confirmed the severe malnutrition and profound psychological trauma Amina had suffered. He prescribed a rich and balanced diet, psychological support, and above all, love and patience. Khalid spared no effort. He redecorated his mother's room with the utmost care, ensuring every object was exactly where she remembered it, or in a place that facilitated her orientation. The small rugs that marked her path were replaced, her sandalwood canes polished and positioned beside the bed. The framed photos, which she recognized by touch, returned to her bedside tables. The maids, once fearful and powerless before Saphira's tyranny, now moved through the house with renewed lightness, their smiles sincere and their steps soft around Amina's room. They prepared nutritious and delicious meals, serving them with reverence and affection. The scent of fresh spices, freshly baked bread, and sweet fruits filled the air, replacing the aura of decay. Amina, however, did not recover overnight. Nightmares haunted her, and she awoke with muffled cries, feeling the terror of being trapped in the dark again, the smell of spoiled food still in her nostrils. Khalid was always there, his presence a constant anchor. He sat beside her, reading excerpts from her favorite books, describing the blooming garden outside, or simply holding her hand in silence until calm returned. "I feel soiled, my son," Amina confessed one day, her voice choked, "as if the darkness and wickedness had stained me from within." Khalid kissed her forehead. "You are the light of this house, Mother. No darkness can truly touch you. The wickedness has been expelled, and now it is time to purify your soul and body." He arranged an aromatic herbal bath, a purification ritual his mother had always loved. The warm water, the scent of roses and jasmine, and the careful hands of the maids who washed her with reverent delicacy began to dissolve the crust of despair that enveloped her. Amina felt the weight of the world drain from her shoulders, a deep sigh escaping her lips. Slowly, Amina began to rise again, first just a few steps around the room, with Khalid's help. Then, with her canes, she explored the familiar corridors, her fingers tracing the textures of the walls, recognizing the furniture by touch. The sound of her own laughter, faint at first, began to echo through the mansion again when Khalid told funny stories from his childhood. She savored every meal, rediscovering the pleasure of worthy cuisine. There were still moments of deep sadness and anger, a knot in her throat she couldn't untie. The memory of Saphira's cruelty was an invisible yet deep scar. Khalid knew the journey would be long, but every small progress his mother made was a balm for his own soul, tormented by guilt. He had failed to protect her, but now his dedication was unwavering. The mansion, once a stage for cruelty, now pulsed with the promise of healing and the restoration of a filial love that had been tested but never broken. Amina's life, though marked by pain, began to flourish anew under the sun of truth and justice. Amina, with Khalid's unwavering support, began to weave a new routine, a delicate tapestry of small triumphs and moments of deep introspection. The mansion's garden, once a place of distant memories, became her sanctuary. Guided by her son's firm hand or the familiar touch of her cane, she explored the stone paths, feeling the rough texture beneath her feet and the intoxicating scent of roses and jasmine that bloomed in abundance. The birdsong, once a muffled and distant sound, was now a clear and comforting melody that enveloped her. One day, Khalid found her, sitting on a marble bench, her hands caressing the petals of a freshly opened rose. A gentle smile played on her lips, a smile he hadn't seen in a long time. "It's so good, my son," she whispered, her voice still a little weak but laden with renewed serenity. "To feel the sun on my face, the smell of the damp earth. It's as if life is returning to me, leaf by leaf." But healing was not linear. There were days when the shadow of Saphira's cruelty hung over her like a dark cloud. A smell of food she didn't recognize, an unexpected noise in the kitchen, or even prolonged silence could trigger a wave of panic. She awoke from nightmares, her heart pounding uncontrollably, feeling again the cold of the floor and the bitter taste of despair. Khalid was always there, his presence a constant anchor. He embraced her, whispered words of comfort, described the objects around the room, reminding her where she was and that she was safe. "I still feel the fear, Khalid," she confessed one morning as he helped her with her herbal tea. "The fear that everything will return, that I will be forgotten again, that darkness will engulf me." Khalid held her hand firmly. "That will never happen again, Mother, I swear. The darkness has been expelled from this house. You are surrounded by light and love now, and I am here to ward off any shadow that tries to approach." He not only cared for her physical needs, but also for her soul. He encouraged her to resume her passions. The maids, with gentle smiles, brought her silk threads and embroidery needles, and Amina, with her sharpened, tactile memory, began to create intricate patterns, feeling the silk glide between her fingers. The soft sound of the needle piercing the fabric was a calming rhythm that filled the silence. Khalid read the newspapers to her, described world news and court gossip, keeping her connected to the life Saphira had tried to steal. Amina, slowly, began to take an interest again in the conversations in the living room, where Khalid took her to spend the afternoons. She listened to the voices of the servants, the laughter of children playing in the distant courtyard, the hum of life that pulsed again in the mansion. Her ears, once tense and alert for any sign of danger, now opened to the symphony of normalcy. One day, as she walked down the corridor, her fingers slid over a bookshelf. She stopped, and a wave of nostalgia washed over her. "Khalid," she called, "my book of Hafez's poems. Is it still here?" Khalid approached, and his fingers found the familiar volume. "Yes, mother. Exactly where you left it." She took the book, her wrinkled hands caressing the leather cover. "Read me something, my son. Read me something that speaks of hope and rebirth." Khalid opened the book and began to read, his deep, melodious voice filling the corridor. The words of the ancient poet, full of wisdom and beauty, were a balm for Amina's wounded soul. She closed her eyes, feeling warm tears stream down again. But this time, they were not tears of despair, but of a deep and bittersweet gratitude. Life, she knew, would never be the same. But the promise of a new dawn, guided by love and truth, was a light she could now feel. The mansion, once a stage of cruelty, was now a home of healing, and Amina, the resilient matriarch, was beginning to find her way back to the light. Hafez's words dissipated into the air, leaving an echo of hope that rooted itself deeply in Amina's soul. She felt a new strength, a delicate thread of courage beginning to weave itself into her being. It wasn't enough to just be safe. She needed to reoccupy her place, to feel life pulse again beneath her hands. One day, as Khalid read to her about the blooming gardens of Damascus, Amina interrupted him. "My son," she said, her voice firmer than in previous days, "I would like to go to the living room. I want to feel the afternoon sun through the large windows, as I used to." Khalid felt a thrill of joy. It was the first request that expressed a desire to go beyond her restored room. "Of course, mother. It will be a pleasure to take you." With Khalid's arm as her guide and her sandalwood cane tapping softly on the polished marble, Amina left the safety of her room. Each step was a small victory. She felt the soft carpet beneath her feet, then the coolness of the marble, the familiar textures of the walls beneath her fingers. The scent of beeswax and fresh flowers replaced the memory of mold and despair. The soft hum of the mansion, once a warning sign, was now a comforting melody of life. Upon reaching the grand living room, Amina felt the warmth of the afternoon sun kiss her face. A deep sigh escaped her lips. She reached out and Khalid guided her to her favorite sofa, a silk divan embroidered with golden patterns. She felt the luxurious fabric, the soft backrest, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. "It's so different," she murmured, more to herself than to Khalid. "I feel the lightness in the air, the absence of that heavy shadow." Khalid sat beside her, holding her hand. "The mansion is clean, mother. Not just physically, but its soul, too. The evil has been eradicated." Amina nodded. Her fingers traced the contours of the objects on the coffee table. A crystal vase, a carved wooden box. She recognized each of them by touch, feeling the familiarity Saphira had tried to steal. But the memory of the cruelty still assailed her. A shiver ran down her spine as she remembered how Saphira had ignored her, or worse, mocked her, right in that very room. The muffled sound of distant laughter coming from the courtyard made her body stiffen for an instant. "I still feel the echo, Khalid," she confessed, her voice choked. "The echo of contempt, of loneliness, as if the walls still whispered the humiliations." Khalid squeezed her hand. "The walls now whisper love, mother, and your strength. You are here, in your rightful place. No one can take that from you again." He described the scene before her, the silk curtains swaying gently with a light breeze, the sunbeams dancing on the marble floor, the fresh flowers in a vibrant arrangement. He described the birds singing in the garden, the soft sound of the bubbling fountain. Amina listened, and slowly, the tension in her shoulders eased. She breathed deeply, absorbing the sounds and smells Khalid described. It was as if, through his eyes, she could see the beauty that surrounded her. I don't just want to feel the sun, my son, she said, her voice gaining new determination. I want to govern this house again. I want to feel its pulse, know what happens in every corner. I will no longer be a prisoner in my own home. Khalid felt immense pride swell in his chest. It was his mother, the strong and resilient matriarch, beginning to emerge from the ashes. And so it shall be, mother. The house is yours. I will be your eyes and your hands if you need, but the wisdom and authority have always been yours. Amina smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face. Then, tomorrow, she declared, her voice clear and firm, I would like to start supervising the kitchen again. I want to smell the spices, hear the clatter of pots. I want the house to know its matriarch has returned. Khalid kissed her forehead. He knew the journey would still be long, but that moment, there in the living room under the afternoon sun, was a watershed. Amina was returning, not as the broken woman he had found, but as a renewed force, ready to reclaim her legacy and rewrite her story. Sheikh Khalid's mansion, once a stage of darkness, now awaited the rebirth of its true queen. The following morning brought with it the lively hum of the kitchen, a sound Amina hadn't heard clearly in a long time. The scent of cardamom and fresh coffee wafted through the corridors, mingling with the aroma of freshly baked bread. Khalid, with a smile on his face, guided his mother to the mansion's pulsating heart. Upon entering the vast kitchen space, the sounds enveloped her. The gentle sizzle of hot olive oil in the pan, the clatter of pots and pans, the steady rhythm of a knife chopping herbs on the wooden board. The voices of the cooks and helpers silenced for an instant, and Amina felt their curious and respectful gazes upon her. Good morning, everyone, Khalid said, his voice resonating with authority and a tone of pride. My mother, Amina, has returned to supervise the kitchen. She will guide you again, as she always has. Amina felt the warmth of the wood-fired stove and reached out, touching the cool surface of a marble countertop. The scent of cumin and coriander was strong, familiar. She breathed deeply, absorbing the essence of that place that had once been her domain. Good morning, she replied, her voice firm, though with a slight emotion. It's good to be back. One of the oldest cooks, Omar, approached. Welcome back, madam. We missed you greatly. His voice was laden with sincerity. Amina smiled. Thank you, Omar. I'm sure you've done an excellent job. But now I want to feel the ingredients, hear the pots. What are we preparing for lunch? Khalid described the fresh vegetables laid out on the counter, purple eggplants, vibrant red tomatoes, green bell peppers. Amina reached out and touched a bunch of parsley, feeling the delicate texture of the leaves. She held a lemon, feeling its rough peel and the citrusy scent that emanated from it. Excellent, she murmured. Omar, prepare a lamb tagine with apricots and almonds, and I want the rice cooked with saffron, so its aroma fills the house. Her instructions were precise, given with the confidence of one who knew every secret of that space. The cooks hastened to follow her orders, the kitchen's rhythm resuming with new energy. Amina, guided by Khalid, walked slowly, her fingers tracing the spice shelves, identifying each jar by its scent, pungent black pepper, sweet cinnamon, spicy ginger. Suddenly, a loud clatter of a falling pot made her body stiffen. For an instant, fear invaded her, the sound echoing like thunder, reminding her of the fragility of her former world. She felt her heart race, her breath caught in her throat. It was an echo of panic, from that time when any unexpected sound meant danger. Khalid, noticing her tension, immediately held her hand. It's all right, mother. It was just a pot. No one was hurt. He described the scene, a clumsy helper, the copper pot rolling on the floor, now already being picked up. Amina breathed deeply, feeling Khalid's comforting squeeze. The shadow of the past receded, replaced by the reality of the present, of her safety and the control she was regaining. She nodded, a faint smile returning to her lips. "There are still echoes, my son, but they will not dominate me." She turned to Omar. "And for dessert, a date pudding with a hint of orange blossom water. I want the aroma to be subtle, yet unforgettable." Khalid watched his mother with admiration. She wasn't just giving orders. She was weaving a tapestry of flavors and aromas, restoring the mansion's soul through her culinary art. The kitchen, once a place of neglect and hurried meals, now pulsed with the promise of abundance and care. By late afternoon, Amina was sitting in her armchair in the living room, the delicious scent of tagine filling the air. The mansion seemed to breathe differently, more alive, more joyful. She had spent hours in the kitchen, not only supervising but also sharing anecdotes with the cooks, teaching them small family tricks and secrets. "Mother, are you exhausted?" Khalid asked, sitting beside her. "No, my son," she replied, a sparkle in her eyes. "I am invigorated. It's as if every fiber of my being is awakening." She paused, and a new thought emerged. "Khalid, I would like to resume my weekly meetings with the housekeeper. I need to know about the house's stock, the linens, the necessary repairs. I want the mansion to be impeccable, as it always was." Khalid felt a warmth in his chest. His mother wasn't just healing, she was expanding, reclaiming every piece of her kingdom. "It will be done, Mother. Tomorrow the housekeeper will be at your disposal." Amina smiled, a smile that reached her eyes, once vacant, now filled with a renewed light. She knew that each step was a battle won, each recognized scent, each familiar sound, a victory against the darkness that had surrounded her. The matriarch was back, and the mansion under her guidance was flourishing again in all its splendor. The following morning brought with it a new layer of purpose for Amina. The soft aroma of jasmine, rising from the garden, mingled with the scent of fresh coffee, signaling the start of a promising day. Khalid, punctual as always, awaited her in the living room, where the morning sun filtered through the silk curtains, painting the marble floor with golden stripes. He guided her to a comfortable chair, next to the mahogany table, where the mansion's ledger books awaited. "The housekeeper, Fatima, is on her way, Mother," Khalid informed, his voice soft. "She is eager to see you." Amina nodded, feeling the smooth surface of the table beneath her fingers. She could imagine the bound volumes, the pens and papers, ready to be examined. A slight nervousness ran through her, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of determination. It was another step towards regaining full control, towards erasing the marks of neglect. A soft knock at the door announced Fatima's arrival. The sound of light footsteps and the rustle of soft fabric filled the silence. "Good morning, Amina." Fatima's voice was respectful and visibly emotional. "It is an honor to have you back." "Good morning, Fatima," Amina replied, her voice firm. "Please sit. Khalid told me you have kept the house in order. Now, I want to hear the details." Khalid described Fatima, a middle-aged woman, with a delicate scarf covering her hair, her brown eyes fixed on Amina with a mixture of reverence and relief. He placed the open ledger books before her. Amina reached out, and Fatima guided her fingers to the page. "We will start with the inventory of the dinnerware, Fatima. Has there been any significant breakage? And the crystals, are they being polished regularly?" Fatima began to report, her voice gaining confidence as she described the care with which she maintained each item. Amina listened attentively, interrupting with precise questions that revealed her deep knowledge of the house. "And the linens? The Egyptian linen sheets? Have they been aired? I detect a faint smell of mothballs in some of the upstairs closets. We need fresh lavender." Khalid was amazed. His mother, blind, could detect such a subtle detail merely by scent, remembering the exact location of the closets. Fatima diligently noted each observation, realizing that the matriarch had lost none of her acuity. As Fatima spoke of repairs in the West Wing, a minor roof leak, a crack in the library wall, Amina felt a shiver. The library, the place where Saphira had once locked her, the smell of dust and old books mingling with her own despair. The distant sound of a hammer striking, coming from the West Wing, brought a flash of that memory. For an instant, the air in the room seemed thin, and she squeezed Khalid's hand. "It's all right, Mother," Khalid whispered, noticing her tension. "It's just work on the roof. They're fixing everything." He described the carpenter, the roof being inspected under the sun. Amina breathed deeply, the squeeze on her hand lessening. "Yes, of course," she said, her voice returning to firmness. "Thank you, Fatima. Make sure the materials are of the best quality, and that the work is done with the utmost care. The library is a treasure." Fatima nodded, relieved. "It will be done, Amina. Personally." The meeting extended for almost 2 hours. Amina addressed the gardens, vehicle maintenance, the well-being of the staff. She wanted to know about everything, every detail of the mansion's operation. Her fingers traced the columns of numbers in the ledger, and she asked questions about expenses, the efficiency of suppliers. It was a symphony of control and care, a meticulous orchestration that Saphira had never understood. At the end of the meeting, Fatima stood, her eyes moist. "I feel so relieved, Amina. The house was needing your light." Amina smiled. "And I need the house, Fatima. It is my home and my legacy. Tomorrow I would like to discuss the organization of social events. We need to plan the annual charity reception. The mansion needs to shine for the community again." Khalid, observing his mother, felt a wave of emotion. She wasn't just recovering, she was rebuilding her empire, one brick at a time. The mansion, once a sanctuary of pain, was transforming into a beacon of hope and resilience, guided by the matriarch who had returned to reclaim her rightful place. The sound of the gentle wind swaying the curtains seemed to applaud her return. The following morning brought not only the aroma of jasmine and coffee, but also the effervescence of preparation for a grand event. Amina, after a light and nutritious breakfast, was already seated in her favorite armchair in the living room, her mind teeming with ideas. Khalid was by her side, reading excerpts from a morning newspaper, but his attention was entirely focused on his mother. "Khalid, please call Fatima again," Amina instructed, her voice laden with renewed energy. "And also Mrs. Hajar. She has always been my right hand in organizing social events." Khalid called the housekeeper, and within minutes Fatima entered the room, followed by an older woman, with a soft voice and elegant steps, whom Amina recognized immediately. "Amina, it is an immense pleasure to see you so well," Hajar said, her voice choked with emotion. "Hajar, my dear, it's good to have you back by my side," Amina replied, extending her hand for Hajar to hold. "We have much to do. The annual charity ball needs to be the most spectacular of all." Khalid described the room. Hajar, with her impeccably pinned grey hair and a discreet navy blue dress, sat opposite Amina, with Fatima beside her, ready to take notes. He placed a large wall calendar on the table, and Amina touched the embossed dates Khalid had marked for her. "First, the date," Amina began. "We need enough time to ensure every detail is perfect. And the theme, Hajar. I thought of Night of 1,001 Roses. What do you think?" Hajar smiled. "Magnificent, Amina. Roses have always been your passion. We can use shades of red, pink, and gold in the decor, with exuberant floral arrangements." "Exactly," Amina agreed, a sparkle in her eyes. "I want the main hall to be transformed into an enchanted garden, and the aroma. Khalid, make sure the florists use only fresh roses, so the perfume fills every corner. No artificial essences." Khalid made mental notes, impressed by his mother's detailed vision. She was painting a vibrant picture with words and scents. "The guest list," Amina continued. "We need to review it very carefully. I want all our benefactors and closest friends to be invited personally. And Khalid's new contacts, of course." Hajar and Fatima began to discuss the names, addresses, and preferences of each guest. Amina listened attentively, interjecting with questions about specific families, about the health of some elderly guests, demonstrating a profound knowledge of local society. "And the menu," Amina said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. "Omar and the kitchen team will have a challenge. I want dishes that are a celebration of Arab cuisine, but with a touch of modernity. A slow roasted lamb with rare spices. And for dessert, something light but memorable. A date mousse with cardamom and pistachio. And please, a chocolate fountain for the children and young people." Hajar and Fatima noted everything, realizing that Amina was not just giving orders, but reviving a tradition, restoring the mansion's soul as a center of hospitality and generosity. "The music," Amina continued, "a chamber orchestra for dinner with classical Arab music. And then, for dancing, a band that plays both traditional and contemporary music. I want the party's energy to be contagious." As they discussed the details of the lighting, the fabrics, the personalized invitations, Amina felt a slight tremor in her hand. For an instant, a fleeting image of her dark, dusty room invaded her mind. The contrast between the darkness and the splendor she was planning was overwhelming. The distant sound of a bell, coming from somewhere in the mansion, made her body stiffen for a brief second, an echo of that paralyzing fear. Khalid, noticing the change in her breathing, immediately held her hand. "It's all right, Mother. It's the tower bell, announcing noon. The mansion is alive, full of movement." Amina squeezed Khalid's hand, breathing deeply. The shadow of the past receded, replaced by the light of the present. "Yes, my son. Alive. And I am alive with it." She let out a sigh, and a genuine smile returned to her lips. "Hajar, Fatima, we need to think about the charity details. What will be the cause this year? I thought of supporting a local children's hospital for the purchase of equipment for visually impaired children." Hajar and Fatima exchanged a look of admiration. The choice of cause was a direct reflection of Amina's own journey, a way to transform her pain into purpose. "It is a noble cause, Amina," Hajar said, her voice laden with respect. "We will do our best to raise a record amount." "Excellent," Amina replied, feeling the warmth of the morning sun on her face. "I want this party to be a symbol of hope and renewal, not just for the mansion, but for the entire community." Khalid watched his mother, the matriarch who had been broken and was now rebuilding herself, not just for herself, but for the world around her. The mansion was preparing to shine again, and at the center of all that splendor would be Amina, the woman who had transformed darkness into a new vision. The soft sound of the wind, swaying the silk curtains, seemed to whisper the promise of a radiant future. And it was not merely a whisper of the wind, it manifested in the bustle that now filled the mansion. In the days that followed the meeting, Sheikh Khalid's house vibrated with a long-forgotten energy. The sound of hurried footsteps, animated conversations, and the gentle clinking of dishes being handled with care replaced the oppressive silence that once dominated the corridors. Amina, seated in her armchair in the living room, absorbed every sound like a melody. She could distinguish the scent of freshly polished wood coming from the main hall, where the maintenance team worked to restore the floor's shine. The soft aroma of roses, brought by Fatima for approval, hung in the air, transporting her to the enchanted garden she envisioned for the party. "Fatima, these roses are perfect," Amina said, her delicate fingers brushing the velvety petals. "Ensure the arrangements are exuberant, but without overwhelming the space. I want the perfume to be a subtle presence, not an invasion. Fatima noted the observation, impressed by Amina's sensitivity. Yes, Amina, we are already coordinating with the florist. He is enthusiastic about the Night of 1,001 Roses theme. Meanwhile, Hajar was immersed in the guest list. The office adjacent to the living room, once little used, was now a hub of activity. The rustle of papers, the soft click of a pen, and the low voices of Hajar and her assistant reviewing names and addresses reached Amina's ears. Hajar, remember to include the Al-Mansur family. They were very kind when my father fell ill years ago. And Mr. Rashid, the philanthropist, he always appreciates a personally delivered invitation. Khalid watched his mother with growing pride. She was weaving a web of connections, restoring not only the mansion, but also the social ties that had loosened during her seclusion. He described her, the matriarch, with a delicate silk scarf covering her hair, her features serene, but her mind sharper than ever. In the kitchen, Chef Omar and his team worked feverishly. The sound of clanking pots, the bubbling of broths, and the rich aroma of Arab spices spread through the mansion. Amina had requested a tasting of some dishes, and Khalid described each one in detail. She tasted, her sharpened senses catching nuances of flavor that surprised Omar. "The lamb is succulent, Omar," Amina praised after a moment of concentration. "But add a touch more saffron to the sauce. And the date mousse. It's delicious, but perhaps a little less sugar and a little more cardamom to enhance the fruit's natural flavor." Omar, a robust man with a well-groomed mustache, bowed in respect. "It will be done, Amina. Your perception is unparalleled." News of the charity ball spread quickly through the community. The telephone in the mansion rang frequently, the sound of animated voices asking for information and expressing enthusiasm. Many were eager to see Amina again, to witness the return of the matriarch who had always been a pillar of generosity and elegance. Khalid had arranged a visit to the local children's hospital. He described to Amina the children, their smiles, their struggles, and the hope the mansion's donation would bring. Amina listened, a silent tear streaming down her face. The pain she had felt in her own darkness was being transformed into light for others. "We need to ensure the invitations highlight the cause, Khalid," Amina said, her voice soft but firm. "Let people know that every contribution will make a difference in the lives of these children. I want this ball to be more than a party. Let it be an act of collective compassion." The main hall, once a place of silence and dust, was being transformed. The sound of the orchestra rehearsing, violins and flutes filling the air with classical Arab melodies, echoed through the corridors. The silk and brocade fabrics, chosen by Amina after feeling their texture, were being hung, creating an atmosphere of opulence and warmth. In a moment of pause, Khalid sat beside his mother. "Mother, the mansion has never been so alive. It's as if you've brought its soul back." Amina smiled, reaching out to touch her son's face. "The soul of the mansion is its people, my son. And my soul is flourishing again, thanks to you and everyone around me. The scent of fresh roses, the soft melody of the orchestra, the hum of voices, and the warmth of the sun streaming through the windows painted a picture of renewal. The mansion was ready for its rebirth, and Amina, the visionary behind it all, was ready to shine once more. The sound of a gentle chime of bells coming from afar announced the arrival of a new era. The new era was no longer a distant whisper, but a vibrant symphony echoing through the mansion's halls. The soft chiming of distant bells had given way to an orchestra of closer, more tangible sounds. In the days leading up to the Night of 1,001 Roses, Sheikh Khalid's mansion transformed into a whirlwind of activity, a stage where every detail was meticulously orchestrated for the grand spectacle. The main hall, Once a space of dusty memories, now radiated opulent splendor. The sound of light hammers and the rustle of fabrics, mingled as silk tapestries in shades of crimson and gold, were carefully hung. The air filled with the unmistakable aroma of hundreds of fresh roses, a perfume Amina saw in shades of crimson and pale pink, each petal a brushstroke on the canvas of her imagination. Fatima, with a constant smile on her face, guided the florists, ensuring the exuberant arrangements aligned perfectly with the matriarch's vision. "Amina, the grand central arrangement is ready," Fatima announced, her voice laden with enthusiasm. "Khalid described it to me, and it is exactly as you imagined. Deep red and white roses with touches of golden leaves. It is magnificent." Amina smiled, feeling the warmth of the afternoon sun streaming through the hall's large windows, now clean and gleaming. "I can smell the perfume from here, Fatima. It's as if the entire garden has bloomed indoors. And the lighting. Khalid mentioned that the lights would be soft to enhance the flowers' glow." Khalid, who had just arrived from a meeting with the charity event organizers, sat beside his mother. "Yes, Mother, the lights have been adjusted to create a magical ambiance, and the chandeliers have been polished until they shine like shooting stars. The chamber orchestra held its final rehearsal this morning. The sound of violins and flute filled the mansion with a melody that seemed to dance in the air. In the kitchen, Chef Omar and his team worked at a frantic pace. The scent of lamb, slowly roasting, seasoned with saffron and rare spices, mingled with the sweet aroma of date and pistachio mousse. Amina had supervised the last tastings, her sharpened senses catching the slightest nuances of flavor. "Omar, the touch of cardamom in the mousse is perfect now," she praised after tasting a small portion. "It's a delicate balance, and you've achieved it masterfully." Hajar, with the stack of confirmed invitations in hand, read to Amina the names of the guests who had already responded. The telephone in the mansion rang incessantly, each call a sign of the community's enthusiasm. "Amina, the Al-Mansour family has confirmed, and Mr. Rashid sent a note expressing his admiration for the chosen cause. He will make a generous donation to the children's hospital." A silent tear streamed down Amina's face. The pain of her own darkness was being transformed into light for the children she would never see, but whose hope she could feel. "This is why we do this, Hajar, so that the mansion is not just a place of luxury, but a beacon of compassion." On the eve of the ball, Amina prepared with Fatima's help. Her new silk kaftan, embroidered with golden threads and pearls, slid smoothly over her skin, a touch of luxury she hadn't felt in a long time. Fatima's delicate touch on her hair, arranging it in an elegant hairstyle, was a welcome tenderness. Amina could feel the soft fabric of the silk scarf Fatima tied around her head, a veil of dignity and beauty. "You are radiant, Amina," Fatima whispered, her voice emotional. "The mansion is ready, and you are ready." Amina reached out, touching Fatima's face with a smile. "It's not just the mansion that's ready, my dear. It's my soul. I feel like I'm about to dance again, not just with my feet, but with my heart." Khalid entered the room, impeccably dressed in his traditional attire. The sound of his firm, confident footsteps echoed on the marble floor. He knelt beside his mother, holding her hands. "Mother, the night is yours. It is your triumph, your renewal." The sound of the first cars arriving can already be heard outside. The guests are beginning to arrive. Amina squeezed her son's hand, a glimmer of determination in her veiled eyes. The distant hum of voices, the clinking of cutlery, and the soft melody of the orchestra beginning to play in the main hall reached her ears like a fulfilled promise. The darkness that had imprisoned her was now swallowed by the light and life she herself had brought back to the mansion. She rose, her head held high, ready to face the night, not as a victim, but as the matriarch who had been reborn. The night of 1,001 roses was about to begin, and with it, the most glorious chapter of her own story. Khalid offered his arm to his mother, and together they emerged from the private corridor, entering the grand hall. A reverent murmur spread among the guests, who turned towards Amina's imposing figure. The orchestra's melody, which had previously filled the air with a soft Arab lament, transformed into a more vibrant fanfare, as if celebrating the arrival of a queen. Amina felt the warmth of their gazes, not as a burden, but as a collective embrace. The perfume of the roses, now more intense, seemed to dance in the air, mingling with the soft aroma of incense and the sweet scent of Arab sweets. Khalid described the scene in a low voice, his lips close to his mother's ear. "Mother, it's spectacular. The hall is overflowing with life. The golden and crimson fabrics shimmer under the chandelier's light, and the tables are laden with rose arrangements that look like jewels. People are dazzling, dressed in their finest attire." Amina smiled, her head held high. She could hear the rustle of silk dresses, the clinking of jewelry, and the soft hum of animated voices. The orchestra, now in full swing, filled the space with an enveloping melody, inviting dancing and celebration. Khalid guided her slowly through the hall, and with each step, Amina felt the energy of the place. People approached, their voices laden with affection and respect. "Amina, it is an immense joy to see you," exclaimed Mrs. Al-Mansour, her voice warm. "The mansion is magnificent, and you, more radiant than ever." A chorus of compliments and greetings followed. Amina extended her hand, feeling the delicacy of one handshake, the strength of another. She responded to each with an innate grace, her words soft but firm, expressing gratitude and joy at being there. Mr. Rashid, the philanthropist, approached, his voice deep and respectful. "Amina, your initiative is inspiring, the Children's Hospital cause is noble, and your dedication amidst everything you've endured is a testament to your unwavering strength." Amina felt a silent tear stream down her face, but this time it was a tear of gratitude and purpose. "This is what life calls us to do, Mr. Rashid, to transform our own pain into hope for others." Khalid watched his mother with a pride that barely fit in his chest. She was not just the matriarch who had returned. She was a phoenix reborn from the ashes of her own darkness, radiating a light that illuminated everyone around her. He saw her converse, laugh, and even lead a discussion about the importance of education for the children at the hospital, her mind sharp and her passion undeniable. Chef Omar, with a wide smile, brought a tray of small appetizers, describing each one to Amina, who tasted with delight. "The touch of cardamom in the date mousse is acclaimed, Amina," he whispered, proud. "Everyone is praising it." Amina smiled. "It's about balance, Omar. Life is about finding balance." The night advanced, and the vibrant hall continued to pulse with energy. The sound of clinking glasses, contagious laughter, and the orchestra's music created a symphony of joy. Amina felt the weight of the past dissipate, replaced by the lightness of a new beginning. She was at the center of her own story, no longer a prisoner in her darkness, but the hostess of a celebration of life and compassion. Khalid led her to one of the most comfortable sofas, where she could rest for a moment, still surrounded by the party's buzz. "Mother, the fundraising is exceeding all expectations. People are incredibly generous." Amina squeezed her son's hand. "It's because they feel the truth in our hearts, my son. They feel that tonight is more than a party. It's an act of faith in humanity." She could feel the fresh air coming through the open windows, bringing the scent of the night and the distant song of a nightingale. The darkness was still there, but it was no longer the darkness that imprisoned her. It was the darkness that allowed the stars to shine, and that she, Amina, shone among them. The Night of 1,001 Roses was not just an event, it was tangible proof that life, even after the greatest adversities, always finds a way to flourish again, stronger and more beautiful than before. The distant song of the nightingale persisted, a soft melody that seemed to punctuate the symphony of joy unfolding within the mansion. Amina, feeling the vibrant pulse of the party, rose from the sofa with Khalid's help. She didn't want the night to end, not yet. There was a contagious energy in the air, a mixture of generosity and celebration that enveloped her like a warm cloak. Khalid guided her to the center of the hall, where the chamber orchestra performed a more lively piece, inviting guests to fill the dance floor. The sound of shoes gliding on the polished marble and the rustle of fabrics created a mesmerizing rhythm. Amina felt the desire to dance, to let her body move to the rhythm of the music, something she thought she had lost forever. "Mother, Mr. Al-Hamad, one of the city's greatest benefactors, would like to greet you personally," Khalid whispered, leading her. A man with a deep, respectful voice approached. "Amina, it is an unspeakable honor to be present tonight. Your courage is a legend, and your vision for the children's hospital is a beacon of hope. On behalf of my family, we would like to double the initial donation we had promised." A collective gasp of admiration swept through the hall. Amina felt the warmth of generosity, and a wave of gratitude filled her. "Mr. Al-Hamad, your kindness is a gift that transcends monetary value. It is proof that humanity still resides in the noblest hearts." Moments later, Khalid stood before a discreet microphone, the sound of his clear, resonant voice echoing through the hall. The music softly faded, and all eyes turned to him. Amina, standing beside him, felt the anticipation in the air. "Friends, family, distinguished guests," Khalid began, his voice laden with emotion. "Tonight is more than a celebration. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the strength of love, and the ability to transform darkness into light. My mother, Amina, who stands here beside me, embodies all of this." Warm, spontaneous applause erupted, filling the hall with a vibrant sound. Amina felt Khalid's hand squeeze hers in a gesture of support. "Thanks to the generosity of each of you," Khalid continued, "and to my mother's immense heart, I have the immense joy of announcing that the Night of 1,001 Roses has raised a sum that will not only allow for the construction of a new wing at the Children's Hospital, but will also ensure the sustenance of educational and rehabilitation programs for many years." He paused, and the silence that followed was almost palpable, laden with anticipation. "We have raised the equivalent of 5 million dirhams." A roar of applause and exclamations of surprise and joy exploded in the hall. The clinking of glasses, the laughter, and the hum of animated voices mingled in a symphony of triumph. Amina felt the floor vibrate beneath her feet, and a warm tear streamed down her face, this time a tear of pure and uncontrollable happiness. She extended her hand, and Khalid kissed it, his smile overflowing with pride. "Mother," he whispered, "you did this. You changed the lives of hundreds of children." Amina nodded, unable to speak for a moment, her throat tight with emotion. She turned to the crowd, her face illuminated by a smile that radiated peace and purpose. There was no longer any trace of the broken woman who had been found in the dark room. In her place stood a renewed matriarch whose presence inspired and moved everyone. The orchestra resumed the melody, this time with a more festive piece, and some couples returned to the dance floor. The scent of the roses, which seemed to have grown even more intense with the emotion, mingled with the sweet aroma of the Arab sweets being served. Amina felt Fatima's embrace, who approached with teary eyes, and Hajar's firm handshake, who was also visibly moved. The night continued, but for Amina, the highlight had already been reached. She had transformed her pain into a legacy of hope. The mansion, which had once been the stage of her agony, now pulsed with the life she herself had brought back. She was there, at the center of it all, not as a figure to be mourned, but as the embodiment of resilience, living proof that compassion and faith can, indeed, move mountains. The Night of 1,001 Roses was not just a party, it was the celebration of a miracle. The echoes of the celebration lingered long after the last guest departed, a sweet melody of triumph that vibrated within the mansion's walls. Amina, seated once again on the sofa that had previously offered her brief respite, felt the pleasant weariness of a day well lived, of a battle won. The silence that now filled the grand hall was not the oppressive silence of her old room, but a serene quietude, punctuated only by the gentle clinking of a chandelier swaying with a night breeze, and the distant sound of the cleaning crew tidying up the remnants of the party. Khalid knelt beside her, holding her hand with tenderness. "Mother, the night was a resounding success. 5 million dirhams. It's unbelievable." Amina smiled, her face illuminated by a profound peace. "It's not unbelievable, my son. It's proof that kindness resides in many hearts. We merely gave them the opportunity to show it." She could smell the perfume of the roses, now softer but still present, like an olfactory memory of the beauty that had bloomed that night. "The Children's Hospital will have the best rehabilitation wing in the region, and the educational programs you envisioned will be a reality," Khalid continued, his voice choked with emotion. "And all of this, Mother, because of you, your strength, your vision." Amina caressed her son's face. "We did this, Khalid, together, just as we overcame the darkness, together. Life, my son, is a river that always finds its way, even through the hardest stones." Fatima and Hajar approached, their faces tired but radiant. "Amina, you were the star of the night," Fatima said, her voice soft. "Everyone was amazed by your presence, your lucidity, and your resilience," Hajar added with a glimmer of admiration in her eyes. "You inspired us all." Amina felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in a long time. She had been a prisoner, invisible and forgotten, but now she was seen, heard, and celebrated. The sound of a pendulum clock in the living room marked the late hours, a steady rhythm that seemed to promise a future of stability and purpose. In the days that followed, Khalid's mansion transformed into a hub of feverish activity, but with a renewed purpose. Amina, far from retreating to rest, plunged headfirst into the plans for the hospital. She participated in meetings with architects, doctors, and educators, her insightful questions and valuable suggestions surprising everyone. The sound of her cane gently tapping the marble floor as she moved through the corridors was no longer a sound of fragility, but of determination. Khalid watched his mother with renewed fascination. She had recovered not only her dignity, but also a part of herself he thought had been lost forever. Her blindness was no longer a barrier, but a lens through which she saw the world with even greater clarity. She listened with redoubled attention, felt the textures of the fabrics of the decoration samples, and the scent of fresh coffee and new papers became the aroma of a promising future. One day, while discussing the details of the therapeutic garden to be built at the hospital, Amina paused. "Khalid, I would like to visit the site where the hospital will be expanded. I want to feel the ground, imagine the laughter of children there." Khalid hesitated for a moment, but the sparkle in his mother's eyes convinced him. "It will be an honor, Mother. I will arrange everything for tomorrow." Amina smiled, a smile that reached her eyes, even if they could not see. She felt the gentle breeze entering through the open window, the smell of damp earth coming from the mansion's garden. The outside world, which had once been a threat, now called her to embrace new possibilities. She was weaving a new tapestry for her life, with threads of hope, compassion, and unwavering purpose. Darkness still existed, yes, but now she carried her own light, a light that promised to guide not only herself, but many others on their path. The chapter of her pain had ended, and the dawn of a greater purpose had indeed been born. And now, with the first foundations being laid, the edifice of her hope began to rise from the ground, brick by brick, promise by promise. Months turned into a year, and what was once a noisy construction site, pulsating with the clang of machinery and the hum of voices, was now an imposing and serene structure, the Amina Children's Hospital. The inauguration day arrived, bringing with it radiant sunshine and a gentle breeze that carried the scent of freshly planted flowers in the therapeutic gardens. Khalid, beside his mother, felt his heart overflow with an emotion he hadn't experienced in a long time. Amina, elegantly dressed in a cream silk abaya with a delicate scarf covering her hair, radiated a profound peace. The sound of the crowd gathering at the main entrance, a growing murmur of anticipation and joy, was music to her ears. She didn't see the smiling faces, but she felt the vibrant energy of every person present. "Mother, it's real," Khalid whispered, his voice choked. "Your dream, your vision." Amina squeezed her son's hand. "It's our dream, my son, of all who believed." The inauguration ceremony was an emotional event. Speeches were delivered praising Amina's resilience and Sheikh Khalid's generosity. When it was Amina's turn to speak, a respectful silence fell over the crowd. She rose, guided by Khalid, and the soft sound of her cane on the marble echoed. Her voice, once a thread of despair, was now clear and firm, laden with wisdom and gratitude. "There was a time," she began, and the silence deepened, "when darkness was my only companion. I was lost, invisible, and the world seemed to have no color or sound for me. But life, my dears, is a river that always finds its way. And sometimes it is in the deepest darkness that we find the brightest light." She paused, and the distant sound of a bird singing was heard. "This hospital is more than bricks and mortar. It is a testament that compassion can heal wounds that medicine cannot reach. It is a place where children's laughter will be the echo of hope, where every touch, every kind word will be a balm for the soul. May every child who enters here feel the love that built it." A wave of applause erupted, mixed with emotional sobs. Amina smiled, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face and the breeze in her hair. After the ceremony, Amina and Khalid took a tour of the hospital. The scent of mild disinfectant mingled with the aroma of fresh flowers from the internal gardens. The sound of footsteps in the corridors was soft, muffled by strategically placed rugs. She touched the walls, feeling their smooth and inviting texture, and ran her fingers along the polished wooden handrails. "This is the physiotherapy wing, Mother," Khalid explained. "The windows are enormous, exactly as you requested. Natural light floods the space." Amina felt the warmth of the sun on her skin, imagining the light filling the room. She heard the soft sound of a wooden toy falling to the floor, and then the crystalline laughter of a child. A sound she never thought she would associate with a hospital. In one of the rehabilitation rooms, a girl, perhaps 7 years old, was sitting in an adapted wheelchair, playing with blocks. Amina approached, guided by Khalid. "Hello, little one," she said, her voice soft. "What's your name?" "My name is Layla," the girl replied, her voice a little timid. "Layla, what a beautiful name. Are you enjoying playing here?" "Yes," Layla said a little more confidently. "The toys are very good and the nurse auntie is very nice." Amina extended her hand, and Layla, with a little hesitation, touched her fingers. Amina felt the child's soft skin, a touch of pure innocence and hope, That's good, Layla. Keep playing and smiling. A smile is the best medicine." As she walked away, Amina felt a tear stream down her face, but it was not a tear of sadness. It was a tear of profound gratitude. Khalid embraced her. "Mother, you have made a difference in the lives of so many children. In my life." In the days and years that followed, the Amina Children's Hospital became a beacon of hope in the region. Amina, though aging, continued to be an inspiring presence, visiting the hospital regularly, talking with the children and their parents, offering words of encouragement. She listened to the constant hum of life in the hospital, the occasional cry of a baby, the laughter of a child, the murmur of conversations, the soft beep of medical equipment, all mingled in a symphony of healing and care. Her blindness, which had once been her prison, transformed into a lens through which she saw the world with a clarity few possessed. She felt the joy, the love, the hope that pulsed within those walls. On a quiet afternoon, seated on one of the benches in the therapeutic garden, Amina felt the warm sun on her face and the sweet scent of the roses she herself had chosen. Khalid was by her side, holding her hand. The wind whispered through the leaves of the trees, and the distant sound of children's laughter in the hospital playground was a constant melody. "Khalid," she said, her voice almost a whisper, "life is a gift. Even when it seems all is lost, there is always a new dawn waiting, a chance to weave a new tapestry, a new purpose." Khalid kissed her hand. "You are the proof of that, Mother. You are our dawn." Amina smiled, a smile that illuminated her entire being. She had found her peace, her purpose. The darkness of the past had been completely dissipated by the light she herself had generated. She was no longer the blind and isolated matriarch, but Amina, the visionary, the healer, the embodiment of resilience. Sheikh Khalid, standing beside his mother, observed the hospital that bore her name, a living monument to her indomitable strength. Amina's legacy was not just a building, it was the promise of a brighter future, a future where compassion would always find its way, just as light always finds darkness to dissipate it.